Welcome to the SHERGROUP podcast, where we share ideas on how to help businesses grow and prosper in the online world. Join host, Chief SHERGROUPie Claire Sambrook as she discusses her digital journey and how SHERGROUP is helping thousands to keep their business flowing and growing. Here on the SHERGROUPie podcast.
Hello everyone, it's Claire here with SHERGROUP on the sofa, and I'm joined today with my guest Neil Hunt, who is a Toastmaster, and you can see him resplendent in his beautiful red jacket today. And we're going to be talking to Neil about his life as a Toastmaster. He and I go back over a number of years, and he's a great member of my network. Before we get into the conversation with Neil, as I always do, I just give a shout out to our number one SHERGROUP fan, Ross Saunders. If you're in Norfolk today, hey, how are you today? And I think Neil's got a little hello for you as well.
Yes, I'd like to say, Ross, a very warm hello to you. It's lovely to hear all about you. I know you're one of Claire's very special fans, and I'm now one of yours. So lovely to see you.
Oh, thanks, Neil. That's great. All right. Wow. You are probably, one of my most distinguished guests, and I know you're a very humble chap, but I'm so pleased to have you on here today. I mean, a fellow and past president of the National Association of Toastmasters, which is such a British institution. You'll probably tell me it's gone further than that, but a member of the Society of London Toastmasters and a member of the City of London Beadles Guild, all steeped in fabulous British history and, just the splendour of everything that we do so well in our country, right? It's a real honour to have you on here today. Now, I know from talking to you that you have some very special audiences, and you've worked with all sorts of people, and I'm gonna just ask you a little bit about that as we get into the conversation.
Yes.
We met a long time ago, didn't we?
We did indeed.
Yeah. Do you want to? When did we first meet? You tell us.
Well, actually, Claire, I've been trying to do my homework, and I seem to remember that when I first met you, you were Under Sheriff of Surrey. In fact, the High Sheriff at the time was Michael Moore-Molyneux, and I was honoured to be his Toastmaster, as well as many other High Sheriffs following him. But you were the Under Sheriff. You had a very important job. And I always just think, who's that lovely, attractive young lady who follows the sheriff around? But yes, I think so. I know that I was Toastmaster for Michael in the year 2000. I think I started working, doing jobs at Surrey County Hall, as well as others, about 1999. And I'm not sure whether I met you in 99 or 2000, but I know it's at least 22 years, maybe 23, Claire.
Maybe 23. Well, that's a long old stint to be in touch with each other, and how nice is that? Michael Moore-Molyneux, if he or anyone that knows Michael and the Moore-Molyneux family, what a lovely man and lovely family.
Absolutely.
And I remember that dinner because I sat opposite him, and I didn't know who he was. I hadn't clocked him as the incoming High Sheriff. I think he was in nomination. And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Oh, I show people around my house." I said, "You show people around your house? What sort of house? What sort of house have you got?" Not knowing that he had Mosley manner. And he said, yeah, I show people around my house. I said, "Oh, how many people do you show around your house a year?" He said, "About 100,000. I went, "What?" he was so dry. He was giggling to himself that I hadn't clocked who he was. But anyway, he was one of a number of lovely High Sheriffs that we've both met over the years. Another great part of our heritage and history.
Absolutely.
It's all good stuff, isn't it? It's all good stuff.
It is.
So for the benefit of people who have not come across a Toastmaster before, can you tell me about the various types of events that you officiate at?
Of course, yes. We work at a multitude of events, actually. Diplomatic events, royal events, corporate events, auctions on occasions, weddings, of course, and many other in between, civic events. In fact, last night I was at a civic event in Surrey. I was actually at Royal Holloway College, and I was doing an event for the Mayor of Runnymede, an organisation that I've worked for many times, the Borough of Runnymede, and it was a lovely occasion, as they normally are.
Yes, now I was watching something to do with the late Queen around Runnymede, where isn't there a plaque there or something where JFK is remembered, and that's where the site of the Magna Carta was? That's
right, and I mean, I've been very lucky. I Runnymede for quite a few years, and I actually was involved with the 800 years celebration of Magna Carta, and I introduced the mayor at the time. It was a very interesting time.
Yes, yeah, and again, more fantastic history. And I know that you have officiated. I mean, just for my royal and my American audiences, you have officiated with events where there have been some royal people, haven't you?
I have indeed. I've had the honour of introducing 12 members of the royal family on different occasions. And I've always found, I mean, I must be honest, a lot of people say to me, you've met many royals. Well, of course, you work in the presence of royals, but you have to remember your position. You're there to do a job. You're not there as a friend or a guest. So you just have to smile, politely do your job, step in, do what you've got to say, and step back and just be respectful. But I can honestly say, hand on heart, that every time I've come in contact with royals, they've been absolutely charming.
Yes, I know you've told me that many times, and how lovely for you as you look back on your career that you've been able to be in their presence and been able to officiate at things that they have been. It must be a Toastmaster's dream job, really, to work alongside the royal household and be involved with that level of event.
It is a great privilege. My first royal relationship, strangely enough, is our present king when he was Prince of Wales, and it was at the Café Royal in Regent Street. And I was quite worried about the event because I was a young Toastmaster. I'd never dealt with royalty before, but he just put me at ease, and he was absolutely charming, as I mentioned earlier. And we sailed through the job. And in many ways, people often think that the royal jobs are the hardest. They are not the hard in terms of protocol. They're hard purely because you worry about the ramifications if something goes wrong.
Yes.
You know that if you make a mistake, you're probably going to be in all the newspapers the next day. So the situation, you can feel the pressure, although they are quite pleasant and easy to work with.
Yes, I think when you're at their status in society, really, they can be quite relaxed, and they probably have a little bit of a giggle around everybody that's feeling very trussed up and very anxious, because they know that things do go wrong. And I just think that they're very nice people. I had the privilege of being introduced to the King in his role as Prince of Wales by the Lord Lieutenant of Surrey on one of his charitable events. And yes, he found it quite amusing that I was a lady under-sheriff. He hadn't met a lady under-sheriff before, or a lady sheriff, I don't think. They're quite rare. So for me to be...
Absolutely.
So for me to be in 17th century court dress, as you know, we dress in velvet, it was a little... he found that amusing. So there we are. That's my little royal story for you.
That's lovely.
But I mean, your knowledge of protocol, I mean, I mean, does it go down to which side the knife and fork go and the glasses go? I mean, is that part of your remit? Or how does that work?
Not really. That's sort of etiquette. But our situation is that we get called in by all sorts of organisations. Some of them are very well versed in hosting important events, and they know exactly where the guest of honour sits and everybody else. But there are occasions when we're employed and we go in there and the top table's a mess, or they don't know where to put anybody. And then we have to get our Toastmaster head on them and make sure that guest of honour is seated on the right of the host, for example, unless the Queen is present. And then if the Queen is, or I do apologise, if the King is present now, if the King is present, then they would take precedence over the president or chairman or the person hosting the event. And they would sit in what would be the host's chair, and then the other person would sit on their right.
Have you ever had and I know I can ask you this because you're such a down-to-earth guy, but have you ever had anyone where the order of precedence, somebody like, a royal or something said, well, you've said to them, well, actually, that seat has to go to them because, and they've gone, no, I don't want to. I want to give my seat up. Or have you found anybody?
Very, very often, the host or the person that's paying for the event will overrule you, and it's and you just have to smile and be polite. Although inside, sometimes you think, "Oh my God, no! Please don't do that," because everybody, I think, it reflects on the Toastmaster, and that's the problem you face with people who don't understand the protocol and try to be helpful in many cases, but and insist that they want somebody sitting there, and it's not correct.
So I guess in terms of the pecking order, then you do have you must have obviously training and go to references to Brett's or Burke's Peerage about what that pecking order is going to be.
We absolutely do. I mean, we're very well versed. We've got it up here. The standard pecking order, the order of precedence, important events, but we deal with it from day to day. And therefore, what is in Debrett's and other publications like titles and forms of address and what have you, we use them all the time as reference books when we have important engagements. And so I always carry one in my bag, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice, isn't it? If somebody gets to a stage in life where they have achieved, a gong of some type, then it's nice that when they come out to an event and you're there and you're in your full dress, that they are recognised. I've always, and you've always been so sweet to me when I've come, in a line and you've introduced me. It's hugely. It's very flattering, to be given that amount of kudos, and so and just to be guided on how things need to be done properly. I think it's all very nice. It's all very polite and proper.
Well,
things must go wrong occasionally. Do you ever worry about an important event? I mean, I couldn't sleep.
Well, I think the term. You worry to a certain extent. If I'm really honest, when I was a lot younger and I didn't have as much experience, I did used to worry before big important events. Or not, they didn't necessarily have to be big, but if you had the right people there, it's very important.
Yes.
But as I've got older with the experience, I think the worry has just turned to concern. I can be concerned about a particular event because I know there's going to be a presentation and this may not work and that may not work. And yet sometimes things are out of your control. Sometimes people will do unusual things that they're not supposed to do, and therefore it throws everything off kilter, and you've got to think on your feet very quickly, But I don't worry as much. I'm concerned with every event because you want it to go well. Even the civic function I had last night, you are concerned. You want it to go well. You don't want to mispronounce anybody's names or titles. You want to get them in the right order, and you want people to go away thinking, "Wow, that was really exciting or a nice event, and they enjoyed the evening, you know?
Yes, yes, because, and again, having you on duty, it does give that, that sort of flurry to the event in terms of its prestige, because you have a Toastmaster officiating, and it just, keeps everything moving along in the right order. But it's also, it's a nice touch, to have a Toastmaster, just because of your dress and the stature of what you're saying. It's nice.
Yeah. I think with an event that should be well organised, sometimes if you don't have a Toastmaster, it's a bit like a ship without a rudder, You need guidance, and you need somebody that is not involved in the celebration, and is not involved in the banqueting service. They're just purely there to watch points and to interject at the correct time and advise other people in a discreet way when they're going to speak next, or they're doing something, just to calm them, keep them calm, relaxed.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you're looking at your calendar, do you get invited back for repeat appearances, or do you find you're having to research new events?
No, I've got some clients I've had for 23 years, and I've worked every year solid on one or two events or whatever, apart from the 2 COVID years. That put a bit of a spanner in the works, but all those people are coming back on board, and I do work for them on a regular basis. A bit like one of the events I see you at, Claire, at the Law Society, the High Court Enforcement Officers Association. I found out, in fact, I started that one in 2009, so that's been going a number of years now. And sorry I didn't see you there, by the way.
No, I didn't make it this year, but I think I got you that original gig. I think they were looking for a Toastmaster.
Well, you see, I've got you to thank for that. I won't forget that. Oh,
no, I think I was chair of the association then. And
that's very kind.
Yeah, there's only one Toastmaster that I wanted to see. Because again, if you're leading something like that and you know your Toastmaster, then you do feel it takes a little bit of weight off the lead person in the room, because they can rely on you to move the proceedings along, and you haven't got to keep watching your clock.
Absolutely. I think a good way to look at it is we're sort of a surrogate host, but we're just in the background. We're just there to polish up the little bits, the nice bits, make people feel comfortable, make important people feel important, and as you said earlier, their qualifications and medals, etc.
Yes. I mean, that's important. I mean, when you're a Dame of the British Empire, you're a Commander of the British Empire, how nice it is to have that read out, in full, which is what you do, isn't it?
And there's an adjective in all those orders that you probably don't, even an MBE, people tend to think of it member of the British Empire, but it's member of the most excellent order of the British Empire, as is LVO, Lieutenant of the Royal Victorian Order, or KG, Knight of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, etc. They've all got something in there, and you don't find it in many books, let me tell you.
No, I'm sure that, again, just getting into the intricacies of that. And again, people have been awarded those awards, and how nice it is to have them fully aired, in a
it is
a
indeed
very nice setting. It's a lovely accolade, really, to have, and not very often, people will get that. So I think that's tremendous. Now, aside from the Toastmaster duties that you do, now you do some after dinner speaking, don't you?
I do indeed, yes.
Yeah. So what do you get into in that? Do you talk about?
Well, I do. I have 2 main subjects, and maybe you'd be surprised to learn this, Claire. Many people don't know. But when I was a young man, not very long ago, I was a commercial diver. And I ended up diving superintendent in the North Sea in the oil and gas field and what have you. So I do a talk, and it's called On the Bottom. And it's about the commercial diving industry in the 70s and 80s. And so I do that talk quite often for people, and I speak for a few minutes, probably frighten them for about 5 minutes, then make them laugh, And that's one talk I do. I normally take a diving helmet with me just as a prop. But the other one, in fact, the most popular talk I do is called Tales from the Top Table. And it's about this job. And I do it in uniform. And again, I give people a little bit of history about the Toastmaster uniform and what have you. And then I tell them a few stories that have happened on various jobs and a few humorous incidents, just make them laugh and let them relax and enjoy it.
Yes, well, I knew about the diver story because a few years ago now, we ended up sitting next to each other having a chat, and you were telling me that you were a commercial diver, and I wasn't sure if you were going to talk about that today, but I thought that was a fascinating part. I mean, to go from being a commercial diver to being a Toastmaster, they're two pretty impressive kind of career journeys, and you've done both. So
it is strange. I know it's strange, but
I just think it's fascinating, and yeah.
I always say to people, I'm the only deep sea Toastmaster in the business.
Funny that.
Yeah.
But no, it's a tremendous backstory, and so I'm glad that you've made a business out of talking about it as part of the Toastmaster. That's fantastic. And so there aren't any deep sea diving lady Toastmasters.
Not deep sea diving, but I can tell you, I knew you could ask me about lady Toastmasters. There are, in fact, many lady Toastmasters now. When I started in this business, there were just a handful, I must be honest. And the most famous lady Toastmaster in my mind is a lady called Christine Akehurst. She's a lovely lady, and I worked with her many years ago on large events where we had 2 Toastmasters. And Christine's still going. She's excellent at her job. She's a lovely lady, and she's a good ambassador for the profession.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. I mean, as we know, women continue to make their way up the charts in all sorts of professions and lines of business. I always like to think it's evolution rather than revolution. And,
absolutely, yes.
And lady Toastmasters, I'm sure, bring another dimension to an event, which is great. So I'm so pleased to hear that we're building the ranks of women in this area of business life. And your coat, I mean, this beautiful red jacket that you've got, which I guess the ladies wear a version of that. Do they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where does that come from?
Well, the history of the red coat is rather odd, because as Toastmastering developed, and it goes back several centuries, it's shrouded in mystery. And I understand there is a list of Toastmasters somewhere that worked in the City of London in the 15th century. However, back in the day, prior to things becoming really formal, Toastmasters would just wear the normal dress that a gentleman would wear of the day. But as things developed in the City of London, and gentlemen were invited to wear black. In fact, the city fathers were quite strict. And so everybody, or at least all the gentlemen, had to wear black, or what we call white tie. Similar to what I'm wearing, except with a black tailcoat. And the City of London really were in charge of things in those days. And Toastmasters used to wear a red and white sash. They wore the black coat with a red and white sash because they could not be recognised. If you imagine, all the musicians were wearing black, the waiters were wearing black, all the guests were wearing black. If they wanted the Toastmaster, he was just wandering around in a black tailcoat until the red and white City of London sash came along, which we wear on the right shoulder and onto the left hip. In fact, I was wearing it 2 weeks ago in the Mansion House. But the red coat came along because Toastmasters got fed up with the black coat. And this was in the late 1800s. And this was a gentleman, he was a Toastmaster called William Knight Smith. He was very famous. I understand he was a very good Toastmaster. But back in the day, he apparently, this is how this legend goes, he went back to his wife and he complained that people thought he was a waiter or a musician, kept complaining to him or asking him for more potatoes, etc. And it was her, these ladies always come up with a good idea, suggested he had a red tailcoat made. And I understand he did have a red tailcoat made. In fact, there's a portrait of him which used to hang in the Cafe Royal in Regent Street, which belongs to the National Association of Toastmasters. And I believe it's the only painting of William Knight Smith. However, he went back to work in a red coat and he was a big hit with the guests. They liked it. Even royalty apparently commented on it. However, the City of London at the time were displeased with this idea and they insisted that within the square mile, all Toastmasters must wear a black jacket. And that is almost true today. So when I'm working in the Mansion House, the Guildhall, or doing a livery company function in the city, where they involves a Toastmaster, we wear the black coat, but now we wear the red and white sash to identify ourselves by. However, there is a slight little change to that. Really, we're supposed to wear a black coat and the city sash all the time. However, if you can imagine a corporate entity, imagine Marks and Spencer's hiring the Guildhall for a corporate event. There are no people from the civic side of the City of London, the Lord Mayor, the sheriffs, etc. There are no liverymen. Therefore, you can wear red. But even to this day, out of courtesy, I always say to the person, the hall keeper or the person in the Guildhall, the host would like me to wear red. Are you happy with that? They have always said to me, yes, of course, you can do what the host wants. However, it's just a polite thing that I do. I don't know what other Toastmasters do. I'm sure they do the same.
No, well, that's a fascinating story. I mean, I had no idea that in the city, the square mile, you still had to wear black in the way that you've described, because red it stands out so much, and it really does sort of, as the Americans say, it sort of adds a pop of colour, to an event, particularly when you're behind the top table and the Toastmaster is there. So I can understand why the red coat has taken off the way it has, and the city.
Absolutely.
But you were in the Mansion House, you said, was it earlier this week or recently?
No. A few weeks ago, I was in the Mansion House and I was working for the accountancy profession. And we were very honoured. Our previous, as you know, we've just had the Lord Mayor's show. It's changed, but the previous Lord Mayor was there, Vincent Keaveney. Very nice gentleman. We had lots of speeches. There was a lot of protocol at that particular function. I had to introduce lots of speakers. And in keeping with tradition, the Lord Mayor spoke just at the end before I formed up the procession to leave the Egyptian Hall.
Yes, wonderful. Or again, for those of you that perhaps are not so familiar with English and British ceremonial events, Lord Mayor's show, it's a spectacle through the City of London, and it's all goes back to history of the Lord Mayor and how he came to be Lord Mayor. I mean, it's just wonderful British history, and Neil's right in the centre of all that, right in the epicentre you are. It's fantastic.
Well, I think a lot of people say that to me, Claire, but there's a lot going on up here because I've got a job to do, and I may smile outwardly and look calm. It's the old swan scenario, isn't it? The legs are moving fast, but you're on top, you're serene, and you do your job calmly.
Carry it. Whatever is going on up here, you would never know. It's all very, very serene. Very, very serene. Now, of course, you're working in London, and that must be a real honeypot in terms of fantastic events. But you work abroad. Do you work abroad or outside of the UK?
I have been very lucky to work abroad. I've worked in most major cities in Europe, and I've also, as well as an event aboard the Queen Mary 2, I worked in New York 4 times in Cipriani on 42nd Street, which is a great honour. And at the time, I used to do a lot of functions for Chambers and Partners. You probably heard of them, Claire, being in the legal profession. And many big functions for them, very lavish functions. And I was honoured one year to be asked to go to New York. And I've been there, as I say, on 4 occasions. I've worked there a couple of times with Clive Anderson as a presenter. I worked there with Sherry Booth as a presenter, and I can't remember the other person who was the presenter at the time. But I really felt very proud, not only to represent Chambers, but also to represent the British Toastmaster Society, really.
Is there an equivalent of your organisation, your professional organisation, elsewhere, in the world? I mean, not that I'm aware. I mean, traditionally, Toastmastering started in England. It's now all over the UK. There are odd Toastmasters living in. I don't mean odd Toastmasters. I mean Toastmasters living in other places throughout the world. But I am not aware of organised organisations like we've got here. One of the reasons I've got my uniform on now is because many of the people, and particularly your viewers, they relate to the word Toastmaster to another organisation, Toastmasters International, which is a fantastic organisation, which helps people to get into public speaking, teaches them, they have courses and what have you. But it's different to the uniform Toastmaster, which we are part of the tradition that goes back centuries. Yes, I'm sure they borrowed that name from you guys.
I'm sure they did, yes.
I'm sure they did. So, well, you're another great British export then, and a great British success story, which I'd always like to showcase on SHERGROUP on the Sofa. So,
well, that's very nice of you to say so.
Yeah, well, you are. You absolutely are. It's all our heritage, and somebody that's kind of worked in this arena, and these protocols that people follow, that I've seen over my own career, sheriffs follow, and clergymen follow, and politicians follow, everyone can sit from the sidelines and go, oh, I don't know why we do that. What's the point of that? And yet when those people are invited and they get that beautiful kind of white card invitation, handwritten with their name, there are decorations on them, and they all kind of fall into line. However rebellious they may feel outwardly, they all kind of fall into line when they get invited to some posh do, and quite right, because there's
absolutely.
They just, you know what I'm saying. So
I do indeed.
And they put their posh frocks on, and they dust out their morning suit, and they all kind of fall into line, which is as it should be, I think.
Yes.
Just occasionally. So, what is the last event you have officiated at?
Well, the last event was the civic function that I did last night. But just to give your viewers and indeed listeners an idea of how things work, as being a professional Toastmaster, last week I did 3 events. I started off at the Embassy of Ireland in London, just off Grosvenor Place, Chapel Street, and I did a job for Board Beer, which is the Irish Food Board. And in fact, I started working for them 20 years ago. And I do an annual event for them, and it's a trade reception, and they have all their clients and various people involved with trade food moving in and out of Ireland and what have you. And it involves me doing a rather lengthy receiving line, sometimes up to 400 people. And I have to do them like a machine gun because they're coming up the stairs fast and furious, and I'm introducing them to His Excellency the Ambassador. We had the Minister of Agriculture from Ireland there. We had the Chief Executive Officer of Bord Beer, the Irish Food Board, and other dignitaries. And they're standing about 10, 15 feet away from me. So I have to project my voice, and I've got to introduce them fast and furious as they're coming up the stairs, because I'm on deadline to start the speeches at 7:45. So 45 minutes of introducing people at high speed. And then I normally introduce 3 speakers, starting with His Excellency the Ambassador. So it's a great honour. So that was my first job. I'm not boring you with this, am I, by the way?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, I went the next day I was working for the Worshipful Company of Butchers in Butchers Hall in the City of London, where I'm actually their beadle. I've been beadle to the Butchers Company for many years, and I also act as Toastmaster there when they have a job that requires a Toastmaster. So we did that. That evening after the Butchers, I went straight to the Intercontinental, and I had to get this uniform on. I had to take their gown off, get this uniform on, and I did the HBF, the Home Building Federation annual ball. So I did that. Of course, one thing's formal, the next thing's light-hearted. You have to be Mr. Show Business. And this week I've got 3. I did the civic event last night. Tomorrow I will be at Old Billingsgate Market, the old fish market, which is now an event, huge events venue. And I'm doing the Chartered Institution of Waste Management annual function, which I've done for many, many years. And the next day I finished with a wedding at Great Foster's in Egham.
That's lovely. And in terms of all of that, I mean, just moving between those different events, I mean, tell me about, well, I mean, that's amazing that you can do it like that. I mean, I think I'd be stuck on the one before. But the beadle, you mentioned the beadle. Just explain to my viewers what a beadle is. Absolutely.
Well, particularly your viewers there back in the States there. A beadle is an ancient title, and within the livery companies, the ancient livery companies, which are based in the City of London, they have the master, who's very important, who changes each year, a bit like a chairman or a president. They are very important figures because they are actually the figurehead of the particular trade that livery company represents. The master of the Worshipful Company of Butchers, gentleman, Mr. Andrew Parker, like many of the masters, very nice chap, very well versed in everything to do with the meat trade, and he is the figurehead of the meat trade at present. So the beadle, he's actually down the line. You've got the master, you've got the clerk, you have all the liverymen and the court of assistants, which is a fancy title for a committee. But the beadle is somebody who is there to maintain the ceremonial. My job is really ceremonial, and I introduce people to speak. I do the processioning with the master and his distinguished guests, and effectively do all the links between bits and pieces at the function. So it's normally quite formal, but there are occasions where the butchers have a big charitable event and things like that at the Guildhall, whereas I'm their Toastmaster then, and I wear a Toastmaster uniform, and I have a bit of license to be a bit light-hearted at the right places, not when I'm introducing dignitaries.
And beadles, their official guest, is it a gown? Do they wear a gown or a jacket?
They wear a gown, yes. Our uniform in the city is a gown. It's from the livery company. Everybody, all the liverymen have gowns. And only on formal occasions, you have the master in a gown, the clerk in a gown, the wardens and assistants. Those people wear gowns, and I just wear their gown, which is a black gown in my case, and it's got lots of fancy bits of material on the side and badges and what have you, which I'm very proud to wear. And in fact, I've been in the Lord Mayor's show as a Toastmaster and as a beadle. So I'm very privileged, really.
Oh, I know. I mean, honestly, your knowledge of all of this this backdrop to the City of London is amazing. And again, it is done, you know, with precision and pomp, and and continuity. It's consistent, isn't it? It's just the consistent ticking through of that calendar every year.
It is, but I don't want your viewers to think I'm the only one. There are many of us Toastmasters. Yes. I've got some wonderful colleagues out there who do a great job. And so here's a way to any Toastmasters looking.
Hello, all Toastmasters and Toast ladies. Do you make a difference, or are they all Toastmasters?
No, they're all termed Toastmasters because we don't refer to them as master in the male context. It's because they are masters of the toast. They have mastered that art, and therefore they are Toastmasters, the same as we are.
Great. Good to know. And good to know that there's lots of you out there. But unfortunately for everyone else listening who may be a Toastmaster, I only know Neil. so he's the one that I'm going to interview. But it's good to know you're such a good ambassador for the profession. So when is your next event? When is your next big event?
Well, my next big one is tomorrow. It's at Old Billingsgate, and traditionally we have normally 1,000 guests. I've had up to 1,100 there. It's a very big event. I understand we have a comedian tomorrow, so as well as doing the formal bits and pieces as a Toastmaster, I will also have to act as Mr. Show Business at particular times, particularly when I introduce the comedian. And I think it's Abdul Rashid or a name similar to that. I can't quite remember his name. I haven't got the paperwork in front of me, but I shall be introducing him tomorrow as well as many speakers.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. And well, good luck with that. Break a leg.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
As they say in showbiz terms.
Absolutely.
So, well, Neil, thank you for cantering through acres of experience, protocol, etiquette, and just being, a great ambassador for British Toastmasters across the world. It's an absolute privilege to interview you today. Your website is redtails.co.uk, which is great. Fantastic website. And you've got a Facebook page. I don't think we're connected on Facebook, so I need to connect with you. Obviously, we are connected on LinkedIn, which is a great way to keep in touch. So thank you so much. And I hope perhaps in the future you'll come back and talk to us about, some event involving sheriffs or something to do with the Shrievalty that might be of interest to even more of our community. Because that's our heritage as
I will be absolutely delighted to, Claire, and thank you so much for interviewing me today. And just a big thank you to all your lovely viewers. And it's nice to know that you're all out there in the ether watching this.
We are. Well, listen, that brings a close to this terrific interview with Neil and this episode of SHERGROUP on the Sofa. We're all about connecting our business community with people like Neil. Perhaps we've got a son or daughter that's getting married and needed a Toastmaster, well, now you know where to get one from. And perhaps you've got a corporate event out there and you didn't know, how to get hold of a Toastmaster that you could relate to. Neil is definitely that. And for everyone else, visit shergroup.com. That's our main website. You'll find the SHERGROUPies on there. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And thank you to everyone that is growing our YouTube presence as subscribers. Please subscribe to this interview and our channel, SHERGROUP TV, because it really helps our ranking and helps us send great interviews like this around the world, and it shares our experience. I mean, I have been involved in the world of the Shrievalty for 4 decades, and have seen a lot of change, and have been privileged to meet people like Neil, and judges, and politicians, and royalty in my travels. And so it's a great way for me to share some of my life experiences with all of you. So please check us out, and thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back again soon. And Neil, have a great Christmas and New Year, and we'll keep in touch. Okay?
Thank you, Claire. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Share Groupie podcast. To join our Share Groupie community, subscribe by going to our website at www.sharegroup.com. Keep up with the latest Share Group news across all our main channels, including YouTube, LinkedIn, and across all social media. Stay connected and begin building more business relationships.